Welcome, everyone. Welcome for joining our webinar. We will talk about the future today, the future of quality management. One of our main value drivers or one of our main focuses at Playbook is actually to deliver value. And this brings me to the session today because everybody's talking about AI, everybody's throwing around these buzzwords. And yeah, please go to the next slide, Nikolai. Everybody's throwing around these buzzwords on AI agents. And the real question when we think about healthcare, we really want to ask ourselves like, who's actually in control? Who's in control when AI agents take over, and how can we make sure these AI agents are working in accordance with our rules, regulations, are really compliant? We're going to focus on this today. I'm very, very excited and very delighted to bring our thought leader and visionary mind behind Playbook, Dr. Nikolai. He's going to go in depth in this discussion. He's an absolute thought leader on AI agents. I'm going to be the moderator. I will make sure you all feel hosted and welcome. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the session. Please feel free to post any questions during the webinar in the chat. I will collect them. I'm going to ask them to Dr. Nikolai at the end of the session to really answer all your questions. My goal is that you're going to have a very holistic view on AI agents and the future in quality management. And yeah, deliver as much value as possible. And having said that, thank you everyone for joining. And thank you, Nikolai, for delivering the value today. And over to you.
Thank you, Johannes. Really exciting. In particular, what we were going to do, we bring the future in the here and now. So I think we all can feel it. We all can sense it, that the question of AI is no longer a theoretical one. It's practical. And it's whether it's our daily use of tools like ChatGPT that give us an idea of what's coming up, but also I'm assuming seeing certain initiatives within your organizations. And let's get prepared and let's be ready and let's get in front of the wave and let's be part in designing the future together. I'd go over and start with the presentation here. And go and start presenting here. So we have the first answers coming in here. And probably not everybody was quick enough to get on Menti, so it's just like getting a few voices in here. The question is, are you familiar with the concept of AI agents? I think everybody is talking about agentic automation. AI agents will take over the world, but we'll need to figure out today maybe who they are. And first, it's interesting to have a bit of an understanding. And because maybe, and this is one of the topics we'll discuss today, they will become our future co-workers. And therefore, we as thought leaders, decision makers, quality leaders need to understand who they actually are and how we can potentially control them. So that's a good idea. And I would love to move over to the next slide and asking is the organization using AI agents today? I mean, like we all are in conferences, we all participate. We see, large organizations speaking about how they embrace AI. That they use AI agents in supply chain, that they take over critical roles, and so forth. And I would assume there are a lot of initiatives. Some start, for example, in customer success or like at the front line where we have very repetitive tasks, and we all know from the consumer perspective, the interactions with chatbots and so forth, which can be still a bit struggling. But we see all these initiatives, and then at that same time, we see also a lot of organizations talking about it, but actually lacking real use cases, understanding where can it have this impact. So we're at this phase where it's in the room, but not tangible yet enough. And I think that is a good reflection here of these answers here. There are a few more coming in, but I would here quickly continue with regards to the time. What AI are you using during your workday, and for what? I mean, this is while the session is recorded, it's not recorded who gave what. I mean, like some organizations would allow the use of ChatGPT, others don't. Do you even have own built tools within your organizations? Some organizations have apps, ChatGPT so far, or as an AI for everything. Of course, Copilot to some extent, of course, is an AI, which is allowed in some organizations. I love that ChatGPT only to reword email sometimes. Did you know, by the way, that there is one hack and that where you can simply identify whether a text was drafted with ChatGPT. I don't know if you noticed, but ChatGPT uses those long Johannes, help me. What are they called? Those long in German is Gedankenstrich. Those
I'm you got me on
yeah,
that one.
yeah, I'm talking
But
about that
it's
one. That you can like always like you can I see this even on LinkedIn posts. You can say, okay, this was at least reworded with ChatGPT, and it's interesting and will be way more accepted. I'm very positive here. So okay, amazing. I think that's amazing. That's great. So let's go quickly to the next slide. And there are not many more, so we're not doing this for a full hour. Don't worry. But I think it's very interesting, maybe even for you as well, to see what others here have in mind. And by the way, if you just joined, please go to menti.com 26212413. Use that code. You should be able to do that. I think super exciting what we hear and what we see in quality management. We see in particular also in larger organizations, there's budget, there's an AI strategy. It's part of the strategy 2030, and there's budget. And the question is, how are we gonna tackle this? And of course, we see a lot of different attempts. And Playbook, of course, has an own stake to this and an own approach to this, which we're going to share to you today, where to start, because it needs to be tangible. You need to have like a starting point in order to introduce AI, in particular in quality and regulatory work. And we'll share our vision and our mission on that, and actually on our roadmap. And we also share today with you what's being released very soon on our platform as AI features. And I can tell you, it's not a co-pilot, it's not just a chatbot or like someone you communicate with. It's actually built in AI. So that's going to be exciting for the session. Exciting roadmap. So that I think gives us an idea. I have a thesis, which is that between October this year and end of next year, there will be a massive tsunami of AI features being implemented in our daily work life. And I think now is the right time. Now it's almost September. Let's get ready and embrace this. So I think I would quickly skip those slides, and in order to move over and go and use the time wisely and go back to our presentation. Quickly dropping a word and allow me that to give you a bit of background who we are, who Playbook is, what our mission is. We're not only an eQMS system, we are actually a very young tech-driven company. What we provide is an operating system for quality and regulatory. It's one platform, highly modular on a no-code, low-code basis, and allowing for all different kinds of frameworks for integrated management systems, whether it's from the ISO side or, of course, from in pharmaceuticals on GXP, from GMP, GDP. We do EMBR on the platform. We do core document management, next-gen document management with, we will touch that topic today, what we call 3Ds, dynamic digital documents, intelligent documents that actually will feed your AI of the future, and of course with international regulatory standards. So that's who we are, and I'll show you a little bit of the product here today as well. And who are we? We're born in Germany. You can hear by the accent, and we have participants from all around the world, which is super exciting. You can hear by Johannes, in particular, my accent. We're born in Germany. The company is born in Germany, but we're acting. We're serving international customers in the EU, in the US, growing into a bit into Asia Pacific, and proud to have also on the African continent have amazing customers there. So and this is already the last slide on our company, but what's important for you when you use technology today and in the future? You just not need another tool. You're not needing just like an empty management system, which you basically have to build your own from scratch. What you need is something that actually delivers value on two levels, on the technical level, but also on the subject matter level. So everything that's built in Playbook has been built together with healthcare experts, people that have been working in the industry for 25 years, have all the operational experience. And that's why one of our mission statements is experts serving experts. We want to have experts in our teams that serve you as subject matter experts on the topic, and that's why our platform comes 80% pre-configured with tools, with modules, with templates that are already reflecting best practices, industry standards, which are auto updated, and also with AI. And you'll see that in a moment. We'll work towards establishing gold standards, not only from a conformity perspective against EU MDR, for example, but really on an operational perspective, establish gold standards that actually constantly evolve, reflect the industry's best practices, and you can measure your SOPs and all your actions against it to ensure that you basically have a constant compliance situation. One word, I always say this, but it should be absolutely clear. We're certified, we're validated, we are rated top 10 in class in Deloitte's Global Cybersecurity Vendor Assessment. Servers located in the EU, as they hold the strictest regime. So all the tick boxes we can tick on that side, but it's simply worth mentioning. And Johannes, if you allow me, I would actually get right to the topic
Let's
and
get right into it.
right into the topic. And what I
Right
would do
into
is
AI.
I would show you maybe a short video of something what's very soon in the future. I hope you can see my screen now. Can
We
you
can
also
see the video
hear
link.
hear the
Yes.
sound?
No sound, but we
Okay.
can see it.
Okay, so I can give you a quick voiceover. So what's already establishing is, imagine you have a supplier, you need to evaluate that when it comes to supplier onboarding, you want on the one side ensure that the supplier, of course, meets all regulatory standards. On the other side, you want to measure the supplier and their performance against your own internal standards, against your SOPs, your requirements. You might have requirements for regions where you want to have them, where you want to see them. So the process of the due diligence for a supplier currently takes an average up to 13 weeks, ensuring that they hold all the required certificates, that you have reviewed their internal audit reports, that you have an understanding how they're performing, how they have been performing in the past, whether you can rely on them. And what we do with Playbook here already is, just giving you a quick example, is we provide you with like an automated and AI-driven supplier due diligence that actually gives you compliance scores, that gives you an idea where that supplier actually sits. We have on the source side, so what we're actually using to for this evaluation is, of course, classical documentation as their certificates, their audit reports, but also international standards, regulatory standards, and your SOPs in that regard. So that just to give an idea where the future is going. But let's go back and let's get the first step, like looking at what's coming up. And we'll dive further into the product and further details, and we show you how we get there with Playbook and the product. So let's pause for a second and just let this number sink in. 25%, 25% of our workforce will be non-human by 2030. And that's very soon. I mean, we're like, I don't know how you feel about 2025, and if you're already thinking about Christmas and the year is almost over, but 2030 is very close. And I just said there will be a tsunami coming up. So 25% of our workforce will be non-human. AI agents, robotics, automation, they will all contribute to our work life. They also will contribute to the global GDP, but it will have a massive impact on us as human workers. That means 1 out of 3 co-workers won't eat, won't sleep, won't take a sick leave. And in healthcare, and particularly in pharmaceuticals and medical device, it's not only about productivity, it's about safety, it's about quality, it's about compliance. So it's not about replacing us. It is about how we get better in achieving our targets and our goals using a non-human workforce. And as we saw from the little survey we did, we need to first understand what AI agents actually are. So meet your new colleagues, meet your new colleagues, non-human colleagues, AI agents. And maybe I then, this is not planned, but I share a quick anecdote. I mean, like, we already use AI agents within Playbook, and it is still a very odd feeling that when I'm getting assigned tasks by an agent. So I receive an email, and an agent has reviewed my work and sent me back a task. And I'm going like, who is this? And I'm looking closer at the name, and all our agents have names within Playbook. And it's still, I'm not that young, but I'm not that old. And I feel like, wow, I'm currently here being assigned work from a human being, which is very interesting. And the difference between AI agents and robots are that they're almost invisible. AI agents you almost don't see. Maybe you see them or you realize them, as I just mentioned, that they assign work to you, and that they interact with you on a software, on a platform, that they co-author, writing of an SOP, that they assist you with that. But in the end, they're nothing else than software. They're software, and they're driven by large language models. I mean, we all know ChatGPT is a large language models. Like, that's actually the brain. They're connected to your tools. They will be connected to your current tech stack. It depends on what kind of legacy tools you use in ERP systems, of course, but also, and this is essential, of course, on the quality side, what tools you use. They will be connected to these tools because they need access to data for context. And there will be embedded in your workflow. So as the story I just shared, it will be totally normal that an AI agent, so a software, will autonomously, and this is the crazy part, will autonomously assign me work, because it's thinking. It realizes that something slipped, I missed something, or it has taken over, the task, and it will a part of the work, and now it's handing it back over to me because it needs my human evaluation and so forth. So they will be embedded into our workflows, and their capacity is, and there's a mistake, and I'm very bold on this one. And just in order to protect us from what's coming, there are a lot of people saying AI agents will never replace us. Um, in a totality, probably not. But let's be realistic. Their capacities are incredible, and they increase and gets better. So they will help you write reports. And as we just did, the due diligence of a supplier, they will assist you in running this due diligence. And of course, in the end, you will still review and you'll still make sure that everything is lined. But that cuts down your work time from maybe, let's say, 13 weeks, so maybe just an afternoon or like an hour to actually look at that. They help you audit, they help triage, they answer questions, they learn, they execute. They will become a part of your life. And Johannes, I see quite a few questions already in the chat, so you
Yes.
have that. Whenever there's something, please just go and interrupt me, and we can fade them in at any point in time.
I do
So
have
but
one.
you need to rethink AI agents. So AI agents is, it attempts to give something invisible and not very tangible a name. So agents are actually non-human co-workers that will collaborate with you. They will get being assigned work. For example, in customer support, they can interact and they will interact with customers as they were humans. And this is way beyond what we know from these sometimes very annoying, phone computers or, chatbots. They never get what you actually want, and you're like fighting them until you get to human. You will really notice that they're non-human. We'll get there very fast. Um, they're no longer software which you need to use. They work because software is always dependent on what you give as an input and on the output. But AI agents will be fully autonomous on that. So I'm not
Nikolai,
going into any
I do
technical
have
details
one
because that would be,
question I would like
yes,
to
yes,
ask you. And there's a question on the training of the agents.
yes.
And the question in particular is like, who's training them? Are we training them? Will they be trained on a database? If you
Yeah.
could elaborate on that quickly.
Amazing question. So, I mean, like to already tell you what Playbook does. Playbook, we're the control layer of agents. That means we will give you a cockpit. We will give you a steering cockpit in where you can control any agent in your organization as you need to control today any human in your company in order to ensure quality and regulatory compliance, right? And what will happen is you will have a multitude of different agents in your organization. There will be probably each department either, buying existing agent systems for, again, I'm using this customer support, right? As there is like a CRM system today, there will be like an agent-based system. And these agents went to, let's say, they have a bachelor degree in customer support, right? They have been pre-trained as a model by the supply, by the vendor that provides you with these agentic automation systems. You can then go, and even your team and your colleagues in customer support can like further train them, and they learn on the job as like a junior employee would learn, and they learn your organization better and so forth. So that actually, when you talk to training, they come in pre-trained. This is not what Playbook does. This is what, for example, these vendors does. The interesting question there is, and by the way, there will be also, and I don't believe in that, but there will be a lot of attempts within our organization to all train their own AI agents, right? This is from a governance perspective, this is from a compliance perspective, and not advisable necessarily. And this, I'm not sure if this is actually going to happen. So most likely you will buy, really well-trained AI agents for specific departments. But for you as leaders, quality and regulatory, the question will be, and we'll get to that question, how do you ensure that these AI agents, again, in customer support, that have been trained for customer support, but they haven't been trained for quality, they haven't been trained for regulatory compliance. How do you ensure that they're good customer support agents while adhering to regulatory standards, to your quality standards within the organization? And this is basically where you need Playbook to come in to ensure that you actually can translate what you have defined in your rules, in your procedures, into these agents. And this is what we will actually look at today to show you how we help you to control this workforce in the future. I hope that answered that question was well answered. And
Thank you,
I don't
Nikolai.
want to
I just have
like
one
any.
because I see
Yes,
some
go.
hands being raised. I see some
Yes,
hands being raised by Trisha
yeah.
and Garrett. Please post the question below in the chat, and I will answer it during the session or in the end of the Q&A. Thank you.
Amazing. Thanks so much. And always interrupt me. Otherwise, I'm in a flow, right? So please always interrupt me. And I'm not getting technical here, I promise you. But there are three things we need to remember how these agents actually work. They work with three elements, right? As they're powered of LLMs, they're like that's the brain, that's the cognitive, and that's basically they're pre-trained, right? It's like these foundational models, which we know with ChatGPT, they've been trained on millions of documents and input. So in order to understand language and to actually provide language, so they come pre-trained. And what you put on top of them is you give them access to data, to information. And again, I'm going to this customer support agent, but that maybe needs information and access to, your customer data, to product data, product information to be able to respond to a request, to actually even like maybe historical data on previous interactions. They need interactions. And then in the end, they're instructed. They will be instructed and you will guide them. And of course, they can operate autonomously. But what we will talk today is about how do we guide them and how do we instruct them, and how do we create that interactions with these agents. And this is the space where Playbook sits in. So they will be instructed as you were their supervisor, as you were their superior in organization. You will still give instructions to these agents in a different way than today, because sometimes you do a training and people seem to listen and then still do things different. There even are advantages with AI agents to make them listen better and follow your rules better. This is what Playbook is all about, and we'll show you. But just to understand how they actually work, and that's all I already said on the technical side. But let's pause and let's quickly take a breath, and look at the risk side of things, because there's massive opportunity with these new AI agents. We hear it, they work 24/7, they learn, and they have potential capabilities we as humans don't have. But AI agents are, and that's the challenge with each and every language model and these large models, is they operate on probabilities, right, and not certainties. And we're not in the business of probability. When it's about patient safety, when it's about ensuring quality, when it's about reducing costs of poor quality to a minimum to mitigate risks for our organization, we cannot rely on probabilities. We need certainties. And when we use AI agents on the shop floor, in production, in R&D, in so many various other areas, in supply chain, in the warehouse, and so forth, we cannot let this be subject to any probability. We need certainty. So the challenge is, and we all are humans, so let's be self-critical, okay? I mean, we all have certain weaknesses. We can get tired, and we get tired. We overlook certain things, and we actually here sometimes have a lack of skills. And I would now it applies to myself as well. Like as quickly as changing the world is, and on the regulatory side, to catch up with that, it's nothing to be ashamed of. That sometimes we lack skills. And we need to educate ourselves, empower ourselves constantly. And this is, of course, that can be overcome so much easier with AI agents because they're constantly trained. You just feed them with information and they learn as quick as we can't even blink with them, and they don't get tired and so forth. But on the other side, these AI agents have challenges. Their output can vary. It's crazy. You let them do one thing and they do it, in the one scenario A, they do it in a certain way. In another scenario, they do it in a different way. They can hallucinate. I mean, these modules and everything is getting better and better, don't get me wrong. And we don't know yet where this all will end up. Their theory is actually quality will decrease the bigger the models get. And if you work with ChatGPT team, sometimes you're probably surprised. Sometimes you yell. I don't know if you do that. I do that. Not yell, but at least type. It's like, you got me wrong. So there's hallucination. So they make up things which are not there. And there was an interesting tweet and I mean, unfortunately, there were a lot of interesting tweets by Elon Musk, but I don't want to get into that part. I want to get into that part where ChatGPT actually showed an example where the answer came back and said, I don't know. And Elon Musk said, like, this is fantastic and amazing. And we'd be like, okay, wow, why is it? Because the system actually realized when it didn't know something, because otherwise it just makes up things, which again, we cannot afford, right? And non-compliant in delivery of results, you got to be aware when you deal with AI that AI is optimistic. That's why even, in science fiction movies, people say AI would, kill without blinking. It's of course exaggerating, but think like you're at point A and you tell an AI to get to point B, and what an AI does, it's actually pushing through to get to point B, and it finds their own way. So the interesting thing is, today with humans, we have all these predefined workflows, right? We draw these workflows and envision, and we have these lines, and we just first this needs to happen, and AI is optimistic. It's just result to and saying I need to get to B, bam. but there's so many steps in between. And I'm like, I'm believing in the checklist manifesto, and particularly in quality and regulatory. There's steps in between we need to actually tick off and ensure. And what happens if you just have an AI that, pushes through from A to B without following these rules? We end up with, non-compliant results, and they end up to be a black box, and we don't even see what they do, and particular auditors won't see. And latest, then we're in trouble. So the question number one is, who is in control when AI agents take over? And the question is quick to answer. It must be you. It must be you. And it's not about that we believe that humans in the end shall determine everything. We'll need to redefine our role, in particular in quality, in particular in regulatory. We need to promote ourselves to thought leaders, to decision makers versus administrators, and as we always say, heads of follow up. So there is a new mandate for us, a new leadership mandate for us. And what sounds very technical, we should look at it a little bit closer. You'll need an interface. You'll need a way how you can define the rules that the workforce of the future will need to follow. And as we all know, there are already tools available. We already steer and organize our organization based on written words, based on SOPs, standard operating procedures, work instructions, from job descriptions, and so forth. So we already have a great regime in place where we invested a lot of intellectual capacity to, which combines regulatory requirements, standards across different regions, and combines it with our operational challenges and experiences. So that has grown. And what we do, and this is where I will go into the solution space in a second, what we do with Playbook is we will allow you to translate these rules, these SOPs, this existing intellectual achievement into a rule framework, which then will lead and guide the AI agents, the workforce of your future. That means by simply updating an SOP in the future, these AI agents, these non-human workers will change their direction without needing training because they simply will follow these new rules. And this is what you and your job will be. You will be keeping on defining these and refining these rules and updating them and ensuring that they're well integrated into these agent systems. And that's quite a shift. But it's not so far from what you're doing already today. You're already doing today. Your challenge and your job description today is already defining the right rules, ensuring the implementation, and following up on the implementation and ensuring that the company is actually following them and reacting to any changes and learnings within the organization by updating the rules again. And this is exactly what you will do in a way more advanced version, or can do in the version in the future. So looking at that, you will be promoting yourself from head of follow-up to thought leader in quality. You'll be rule creators. You will be governance designers. You will actually be the decision and intervention managers. So you will be more overseeing these workforces and actually, granularly improving quality, and imagine what's possible there. And of course, the ethical component is something we cannot forget. When we're in the business of serving patients, when we're in the business of improving lives, improving health, we always need to consider ethical oversight, and that's why we, as humans, are still being necessary. So just and give me another like 3, 5, 4 minutes to on this one, and then we'll jump over to the product and also showing you a prototype of what the initial features that are coming out soon are looking like. So consider this, and I hope this reflects well your reality. So, I mean, large parts of our job are today, preventive and reactive. So, in our job, which is ensuring quality, regulatory compliance in organizations, is we try with preventive measures, with risk assessments, internal audits, trainings, and of course, documents and documentation, defining these rules to ensure that the work is done properly. And then we have this middle section, which today is executed by humans. And as we just learned, we get tired, we overlook things, we maybe lack skills, we maybe haven't read an SOP, or we haven't understood it, or even an SOP is contradicting, and I don't really understand, which SOP actually speaks to me, what I need to follow. Maybe I suddenly or accidentally signed off things which I wasn't supposed to sign off, not because it was a bad intention, because maybe I just got it wrong from an SOP. And or training was maybe misleading, or I was asleep during the training, I don't know. But like there are all these challenges in the middle part today with humans. And then we come back after the work is done, and we have like our reactive measures, which is doing audits, having our internal controls, having our non-conformity handling, deviations, and so forth, and basically reacting to what potentially has gone wrong. And the opportunity of the future here is with agentic operations is that you can influence that middle section, that middle part, way better and way more. When you have an AI agent executing the work instead of a human, you can basically inject jumping to that slide, inject the rules and logics you define into your AI workers. You can actually, almost like a vaccine, give them the rules and they follow. That sounds like a horror movie when it would be to humans, the famous chip being embedded in our brains and which would guide our way. No, this is here with AI agents. We have the potential to say we have defined the rules and standards which you need to follow, and they follow. And of course, you will still need to have controls, but it's going to be way more easy to control and steer your non-human workforce in the future. Yet you need to have a mechanism in place. Yet you need to be integrated with them and connected with them, because otherwise, if your customer support AI agents run free, and then you don't have them under control at all, and then it's even more challenging than in today's world. So you need them. You need to be connected to them, or the other way around. They need to be connected to your cockpit. They need to be connected, what we call, to the master control engine for AI workers, where you define the rules they need to follow. They're fenced. They cannot break out of this regime, and they will follow your rules. And this is what Playbook does. This is what Playbook will do in the future. It will be your cockpit. It will be your steering instrument defining these rules and actually guide and lead these AI workers from a quality and a regulatory perspective. And with regards to the time, I'm really getting now to the really important part here, and where is the starting point for all this? Where do we start today? As I mentioned before, we have an amazing legacy. We have invested over decades, often decades, a lot of intellectual capacity in, coming up with these SOPs, which reflect company standards, which reflect best practices, which reflect regulatory requirements. Sometimes are outdated, and it's quite tedious to always keep them up to date. It's tedious to update references when there's a change in regulations, ensuring that this is all updated. As well, it is challenging to ensure consistency, that there is no redundancies, there's no conflicting statements. There's challenges around that, but these are strong instruments, and this is where the starting point is. And with Playbook, what we do is we turn your SOPs in digital rules. We take these SOPs, your written documents, and we translate them into what we call knowledge graphs. So structured rule databases that actually, speaks to each other. And these individual rule statements are interconnected. All the dependencies are well understood. And what's actually growing is a massive, like almost like a neurological system, a brain of these rules, which you then can, curate, update, maintain in the future, and then integrate into any agentic AI. But already today, starting with these SOPs, translating them into 3Ds. This is something we at Playbook use AI. So I'm showing you this live on the platform in a second, how they're being translated into these 3Ds. And in the background, they're already then being trained on it for knowledge graph. So we did deconstruct these SOPs into atomic components, which means like into the individual rules, and they'll be fed into these curated knowledge graphs. And these knowledge graphs are not empty again. They're already pre-trained with the gold standard on, for example, eQMS, right? Or a GXP, or whatever region you're operating in. So they basically already understand, what these rules and your SOPs say. And as a result, you have this established rule framework, and you can then use that in the future to integrate that. And I'm jumping here a little bit, but I want to giving you like a very tangible starting point. So when you use Playbook to take, and Playbook is a fully fledged system, which is way beyond eQMS. We fully reflect all eQMS functionalities in a very modern, very user-friendly way. I hope you'll see that in a moment. And of course, one core part is document management. And we've taken this to the next level by translating your documents into 3Ds with just a few clicks, and getting you future ready on that side. So that's what you want to do today, right? You want to translate them into 3Ds. You want to, identify whether there's like redundancies, whether the conflicting statements, probably something you're already doing today constantly, maybe on a manual basis. You maybe need to rely on consultancy partners that help you really go through 2,000 SOPs to really understand, where their shortages. And then what you will do over the time is actually and this is how these graphs, and I think they're beautiful. When you look at that, that's just like a very lightweighted one. But actually, out of your SOPs, these rule and knowledge graphs will exist. You don't have to look at that, and you don't have to maintain that. That's actually what's happening in the past. But every rule, for example, this product in this site, on this warehouse needs to be temperature controlled with this temperature. So all these rules, they actually will relate to each other with a product, with a site, with a temperature, and this information will be all connected and translated into rules. And this is what we do together with you. If you like, we'll do that within the next 1.5 years. That's what's happening. So the future is here, and we need to get started in order to stay in front of the wave. And as promised now, I think with regards to the time, I would jump over to the platform and just give you
I
a little
have
bit of a
one question,
yeah.
which is actually, I actually have a few questions, but this one is actually relating to what we discussed right now. And the
Mhm.
question is from Simone. She's asking on if we're using existing SOPs, the result of the quality is obviously based on the quality of the SOP. Can you give us a quick
Yeah.
elaboration on that?
That's such a good question. I mean, like we all feel not necessarily always 100% comfortable about our own SOPs, right? And this is not. We always talk about gold standards and like 25 years in experience, and we know the consistency. We have varying quality in our SOP. So when we do this, we not only rely on our own legacy, so what we have in SOPs, and maybe like let's imagine there was a bad SOP, and then that bad SOP would be translated in bad rules. That's not happening. That's why we said we have these pre-trained graphs. They're pre-trained on the gold standard. But the operational experience you have in your organization is so unique and is so precious, and that needs to be brought in. So it wouldn't help you just to provide you with the gold standard and basically, let's say, the gold standard like SOPs and so forth. It's about actually, it's about bringing that together with your operational reality, and that sits within your SOPs, within your documentation, and you can still improve on the way. And we'll show you in a minute. And this is what we love about the feature we're currently about to release. We help you improve your SOPs. And actually, we have a prototype on that, and I will show that in 3 to 4 minutes, what that actually looks like, and how you will be able to initially improve, not only translate them, but actually improve them into better SOPs. Johannes, is there another question, or should we?
There is another question on training. I think
Yeah.
we can go on that in the Q&A session, so you can
Okay,
continue
quick.
the flow. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, wonderful. So just giving you a bit of look and feel, and we could spend an hour or two like me demoing like our product, which we're really excited about. But I just want to focus on very few areas, and particularly how we manage SOPs 3D. So how we bring in the reality, give you the full access to full next gen eQMS, while in the background you actually prepare yourself for the AI future, transforming your eQMS system into actually a rule framework which you can maintain, update, and actually and monitor. So when we look at that here, I just landed on my home screen. I'm Nick, obviously, and here on my home screen, I find everything that's relevant for me. So all the tasks which are pending from SOPs, from customer feedback, from a change control. So everything that's happening in my quality management system, which is relevant for me, is being displayed and shown here. I can see this by my little avatar here. So I'm not being distracted by the work of Johannes. I think you have a full plate there as well. I could even, if you would be in my team and I would be your supervisor, could even go in and see like what's currently on your plate. But let's focus on my work. And what I really quickly want to just show you, and I'm not going into all the modules we have. We have all the modules from change control, from Kappa, from maintenance, from job cards, from EBMR, from supplier management, from risk, and so forth. Having super dynamic workflows in place that actually guide your teams through the process, that initiate the right kappas step by step, allow collaboration, tagging each other in comments here. So really keeping everything in one place, flagging risks. So having that all in place, all these workflows you need already today. We're not going to go into training because we have built-in training on the platform as well. So you have kind of set up these training programs. Within the training programs, you set training events where you can actually then automatically have your teams and staff trained, follow, and have access to their training records, even down to the details of their scorecards, of what they have actually achieved and scores. And even go back and say, okay, we have here, like when we look at that SOP, for example, the training has happened. Even then have the training records per SOP again. So we're not going to look at all that. So if you want to dive into that deeper, please reach out to Johannes and we'll have a separate session together. What I want to show you here is I want to go back and say, okay, how do we actually handle documents today, document management? And I would see the vast majority of you is still working with Word documents, with PDFs. Some of you are even printing, signing, stamping, uncontrolled copy, master, superseded. Some of you are using PDF, DocuSign to all that, route that through your work. But typically that's spread across 3-4 different tools to do that. And we on Playbook cover the full life cycle. And what I'm showing you now is we move out of the Word world. Not because we have any problems with Word, not at all. We think it's an amazing tool. But in our field, we need more structure. We need to be more clear. And what you currently see here is what we call a 3D. So you can tell that this looks different than a classic Word document. And it's a perfect combination of static elements and dynamic. So as you can see from the text, and this is already awaiting my approval here at this point, and I'll show you in a minute what it looks like working in such a document, which is pre-filled and pre-populated. But here, this is already finalized. That's why I can't make any changes here. But we use dynamic data, which is embedded directly in the documents. And each and every sentence here will be used to train these graphs we've been talking about. So it's not just a silent document, but in the background, our system will pull this information. And here, of course, you reference other documents which auto-update. You, of course, have all the metadata. The system handles, of course, the versioning, the information at last modified, who's working on the platform, when the next review is done. So all these things that will remain relevant in the future, not only because an auditor wants to see that, but you need a steering instrument to define the rules that the AI agents in the future will work. And you'll still need that exactly, that written word. You, of course, have your version history. You do the distribution on the platform automatically. Of course, you can assign, whole teams, not only individuals here for distribution, and they get like a notification, as mentioned, the training. So all these things here around these documents happening on Playbook as well. But and what we do have as well is, of course, we have built-in electronic signatures. So what you do here is you get a one-time code sent to your email. Quickly doing that, and I'm really horrible at multitasking. So for once, I will quickly shut up and hopefully got the right 6 digits here. And I can sign this document in an FDA-approved manner. The system, of course, has tracked it. Now the version has become master here at this point. The previous one has been superseded, and you could even go and send this out via email as an uncontrolled copy to other recipients. You can, of course, go and download this one. And you still have a PDF if you like. I mean, if you're still used to working with a PDF, you still have that SOP here, which is stored locally on your computer. I'm quickly opening this here, and of course it drafts you the whole SOP here with the metadata on it, the signatures on it, and
Nikolai,
everything what you need.
we only see the tool at the moment.
You don't?
Sharing
You only see the tool. Okay, I like then before making it too complicated with regards to time, you got to believe me, or you got to arrange for a demo with Johannes to be the final. Like we have those beautiful electronic signatures being on. Both is good. Okay. So quickly on that, and that's the last thing I'll show you here on the platform before we actually go on what the very tangible future looks like. So when you work in these digital documents here, as you can see, they're dynamic. You can select different sites. If you work in a matrix organization, you actually, select the sites, the organization to which this applies. Again, information that's being used in the background to train and curate your graphs. Of course, the purpose description, you have all these elements. You can use table. You can even include what we call dynamic data, pull out data from other resources here, and then they auto update. So whenever you see this little bubble here, that means this information is from a different sources and being auto updated. So you never have the risk of lacking data integrity here. And you see the clear structure here on the side. So the static pod with the dynamic pod. So you can allow and you can quickly define and simply define what the structure looks like with a few clicks, and that's then the structure that's being applied to your organization. References you make to other documents with a few clicks. You have full access to all your all documents on the platform here, and then you have, of course, the full workflows where you can collaborate with your teams. You can have orders, who needs to sign, who needs to review. It can be role based, it can be department based, and all that flexible, and that will remain. You will still need to control your documents because they're going to be the rules that define the criteria for the workforce of the future. This is we're 100% sure, and not only because auditors will at least take another 5 years to adapt to any potential new changes. You'll need that documentation. You need that clarity. These documents need to be controlled, and these will be your steering instruments. It's just happening right away, something with it, right behind it. So when you make a change, when you submit this, when it's effective, your workforce doesn't have to be trained anymore, at least your non-human one, because it's already following the rules the next day or actually the next second. And of course, we have libraries with all these documents here. You can have your own libraries on all these documents here. So that's already your interface today. But let's get to the exciting part, and let's move over to the future and show you what it actually looks like. This is currently in preparation for release, so we are like a few weeks, maybe a few months away from actually allowing you to do this. We work with amazing partners when we talk about the gold standards, but I will get to that in a moment. Johannes, is this a good time? This is another 2 minutes, then we have 5 minutes for questions,
Perfect.
or shall we
Perfect.
sneak a question in? Is that good?
That's perfect. Let's go ahead.
Okay, amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So again, same principle. I log in, I go and check maybe for an SOP. This SOP here is the same structure as we've been seeing this. I have like my full structure scope here, all the information, my sections here, in this part. And if I go back to my purpose, and I can go and here simply click on a little light bulb. That's what it's called. So on a light bulb, and I can go and quickly click here and say, okay, analyze, because and this is, I think there has been a question by, I think it was Simona, say, okay, like what's with the quality of my SOPs? We want to ensure conformity with standards, and we want to ensure conformity, of course, with that they're consistent, not contradicting each other. So what we do here is we can then, for example, here select the different, let's say, gold standards we want to measure our SOP against, and there are AI suggestions are already helping and saying, okay, you should go and select these ones, and I can then simply go and run the analysis, right? So basically, the system then checks on my SOP in this case and say, okay, what is the situation? How well is this defined? And how it is actually going. So it automatically flags me, several risks, several findings on this one. And not only that, but of course, it provides me with recommendations on what to do next. You can see we have here in different places, we have here recommendations and things we need to attach. So what I'm going to do here is I'm quickly looking at what the suggestion here for the purpose description is. And here on the side, I have my findings, and I even, of course, get information on the reasoning. Why is this change here on the right side box being suggested? I also have access to the sources, and okay, this is the reason, this is what it's behind, and what's happening behind why this suggestion is made and why the gold standard is being measured against. These graph structures are being trained with your internal knowledge, but in a large combination of expert knowledge coming from subject matter experts. We work with leading experts from our partners. So you'll have access to that, so you can quickly go and approve and check on that, and then go back and say, okay, I further would want to do the same thing. For example, here on my references, here I'm looking here at my references, and they need to be checked, and I want to actually see, okay, the references have to be updated at this point because regulations have changed, so I need to be more specific, a clause, a reference, and so forth. So the system automatically suggests it, and you can always change that, and you can always go and review that again, and you can then go back and say, okay, also on the procedure itself, it seems there is a lot I need to focus and look at. On the procedures, there's maybe the implementation measures are not detailed enough. It's like there's a risk to that. Again, the system provides me with the source and the information on that, so I can go and further prove this, go through that, and then go back. And I can not only do this on an individual SOP basis, what we can actually do is I can go and say, okay, I want to multi-select and bulk select SOPs here, and actually analyze them against each other and say, okay, what's the situation on all of them and how they actually, work together. And the same principle will apply. So the system is actually then measuring against that the same standards, and they might be finding the findings. And I need just 10 more seconds, Johannes, and then I'm done. And here, for example, then a suggestion is I get a total compliance score, critical findings, a summary of that, the analysis of individual reports. And here I'm getting an action item recommended, which says, okay, you need to upload like a template, one of these templates, SOPs templates in their structure. There's a structural deficit in them. And actually it takes me to, and we haven't looked at in the live platform, but like to the builder, and it says, okay, there is a structural deficit, structural improvement needed because of the EU AI Act, and it proposes me these actual changes, and I can accept them. Again, I could rework them. I'll stay in control, but it's done, it's said, and over to you, Johannes.
All right. Hey, thank you so much, Nikolai. What an amazing insight into the future. I have been very active today. We had a lot of questions. We did ask a few during the session. We only have 3 minutes left. I do have one question for you. Could you please share the screen in case anyone is dropping out early who wants to book in another
Yes.
slot? And I will keep asking questions in the meantime to you. I know you're really good at multitasking. So, so early in the session, we had a question on the training of the AI agents, and there was a
Yeah.
follow-up question on this training.
Hmm.
Like, how is documentation of the training handled, and also in the context of validation of the
Yeah.
software?
Absolutely important, and this is where we work and need to work with responsible bodies as well to come to a conclusion. So we have a very clear approach to this, and this is not yet set in stone and will need to be discussed. It will be different from training humans. What training will be different. It's actually not about training. What will be relevant is that you have a rule framework which is almost like so static that an AI agent can't break out and which is constantly applied. So you will not, as I mentioned, like training is like, let's say, like a preventive measure, and you need to document because we don't have any options better. In the future, what you will be showing is say, I have a absolutely strict regime in place and my agent can't break out. It's almost like when we as a human couldn't actually do something wrong, right? And that's even more powerful than a preventive measure than training. So what you will in the future will need to provide proof is that your framework, your rule framework is in place and that's effective. And you'll need to provide evidence and records that your agents have never broken out of that full framework. And then training as a preventive measure eventually will come obsolete. So you won't have to train agents, you'll have to fence them and control them and have that mechanism in place which Playbook provides. That's one part of the question. And on the validation side, absolutely exactly. We are sure then with the risk-based approach and validation we're already seeing today, and the challenges to validate AI, as we say, it's a black box and so forth. We are in the business. Playbook is in the business in actually to provide these control mechanisms. And as we say, okay, these rules and the application of the rules and the integration of these rules into the frameworks, that will need to be validated, and that's tangible, and that's documented, that's visible, that's tangible. And we are sure that the authorities will embrace that approach to say, okay, I can trust that this organization has their AI agents under control and validates the rule framework and not necessarily the agents itself. That's our take on that. But like with regards to the time, I'm hoping maybe someone has time to stay a little longer. Otherwise, we'll keep recording this and you can go back to the queue. Let's
Thank
continue,
you.
right?
Thank you,
Johannes, yeah.
Nikolai. Yes. So
Yeah.
I see a few people probably have to leave. So if you have more detailed questions, if you want to see more on our AI capabilities, if you want to see more on Playbook in general, please feel free to book an individual demo. You can just scan the QR code, book it, and we're happy to show you more. And I will stretch this a few more minutes for everybody else who's still in here. I still see a lot of people still staying. There's another question on our hosting of our servers.
Yeah.
I did answer already, it's cloud-based. And then there was a follow-up question on cybersecurity and security in general of our servers. Could you elaborate on that a bit, Nikolai?
Yes, we have our servers located in the EU, simply because EU, in particular, also to data privacy, not only data security, holds the strictest regime, which allows us to basically serve the world. So that's why they're located in the EU, and we're certified, of course. We're pre-validated or validated, validated system, provide with the full documentation validation packages. We even on Playbook have validation modules where you can simply do your ongoing validation when you take the risk-based approach, which is probably the modern approach to software validation. We're constantly aligned with validation consultants to understand the trends, the newest trends, also from the FDA in the US, because software evolves, and of course also validation needs to evolve. So I think we're very much on the pulse on there.
Okay, thank you so much. I have one more question.
Mm-hmm.
Zell, she's asking about, let's say, hypothetically, there's a new company being started in the healthcare space.
Yeah.
Will Playbook help to write SOPs and deliver best practice on that side?
I mean, greenfield is always almost the easiest part, but and therefore, yes. I mean, you can basically wreck that within, you could have the full setup. You define the scope of the activity, the potential code scope. I mean, there what might be some uncertainties about what the company actually will end up then doing at what point in time. You will probably need to add SOPs at a later point when the scope develops, but that's almost the easiest way of doing that. And yes, Playbook helps doing that. But with operational experience, we will update that. We will make amendments, but as a starting point, creating an entry, yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Nikolai. I do get some very nice thank you messages from a few people who are leaving. Thank you so much for this impressive presentation. Thank you so much for joining and being so interactive with us. I think let's call this a very good session. Thank you everyone for joining. We are 3 minutes over time. We will share this recording. I want to say particularly thank you so much, Nikolai, for taking the time. Now I'm going to solve the mystery why your background is so amazing. He's in the south of France with his family. He's taking the time to go all in for Playbook, and I feel everybody is feeling the excitement we're having for the future, and we try to transport this today. Thank you so much for joining. We will share this recording and hope to see you all very soon. Thank you.